I will thank you again for the invitation, for the opportunity to re-meet many colleagues and friends. And eu gostaria de falar em português, mas houve assim uma política fechada, hispano-americanista, então eu estou me sentindo, eu deixo aqui minha voz de protesto em português contra uma visão parcial da América Latina partida ao meio. Okay, having said that, due to the time limit that no one respected of 15 minutes, I had cut the database presentation of this presentation. So I would be exactly 15 minutes. So let's begin. A brief history of what you have already heard about RISM-Brasil as a chronology. André translated RISM Spain rules for music manuscript cataloging, applied it in many archives in Brazil, in Museum Music of Marianne, etc. And in 2000 he modeled it, and in 2004, in a separate yet way, we in Bahia devised what we call the SICAM, an integrated system of Brazilian music catalogs. First draft proposal was presented together in Bahia as in a cycle of conference I organized with André that resulted in a book that we published. And the RISM Brazil group was created during the Kurt Lang archive opening, an effort by André as well in 2005. 2006, RISM Brazil made her first public presentation during a POM conference in Brazil organized by Beatriz. So we are kind of a gang, you know. We presented our first international report in Anzidon RISM meeting in 2007. The SICAM grew from a draft proposal into a first online RISM Brazil version of cataloging system. 2009 launched for testing this very first alpha version. In 2012, André organized the first RISM Brazil. We need to repeat that, André. The second RISM Brazil seminar, whatever. And in the middle, in the meantime, we how do you say that? We offered many RISM cataloging rules training seminars in many universities and archives throughout Brazil. So just to help the situation that both of them reported before, that librarians and archivists doesn't know much about music cataloging. So some conceptual background considerations that we need to know before devising anything. Brazilian music documental heritage is fragmented. Its sources are sparse throughout the country. There's a lack of proper musical sources description in many music institutions, archives, or libraries, being public or private. There's also a lack of institutional safekeeping of sources, mostly kept by relatives of the family musician, while the emotional bonds persist. And this is important because when this emotional bond disappears, they sell it as raw paper, throw them away, as John already mentioned, or burn them. And I saw that. But there's another problem that obliged us to develop our national database, because the lack of connection between Brazilian online music catalogs. There are free access, but they don't dialogue. So you need to search in every one of them one at a time. So, okay. The Brazilian musical document cataloging is the only way to know the extent of our musical remaining heritage, tends to reintegrate the sparse musical information, should lead to the institutionalization of music holdings, and will help to avoid further losses of Brazilian music cultural memory. So we come to the concept. Considering Brazilian geography, for those who ever were there, I will show you a map. Infrastructure, laws, and policies. We think that we need an online, offline functionality of our database. It must be free to use for cataloging and research, and full acceptance of Brazilian TIC standards. So this is Brazil. Imagine a country that is double of Europe, with the half of the population, diversely dispersed, distributed. So mainly you have people along the coastline, and the process of colonization in the inlands of Brazil were relatively recent. Exception made for historical countries like Cuiabá, Corumbá. They are from late end of 19th century, I can think. Manaus and other cities that were created, built, founded during the 20th century. So, considering the lack of properly trained personnel in private or public music archive and libraries throughout Brazil, the database must be a technical and a pedagogical training tool as well. Should limit, control the margin of human input error as much as possible. And considering the international scenario, should be compatible with RISM Central Redaction standards. So we can cooperate, and I remark this, I stress this word, cooperate, not collaborate, cooperate with RISM in many aspects. And must be ready to link with any open archive initiative protocol, harvesters, distributed network that we, the world, must build, especially to lower the cost of fundings. It's impossible nowadays to conceive a long-term funding strategy without cooperation and without the distribution of that, not only of the money funding capture. How do you say the money funding? Raising. Thank you. The raising of the money, but also in the database structure. So from these three options that Paul Barron proposed in 1964 for American U.S. government, simple question: how can we structure our information system to support and survive an atomic bomb? They said, yeah, it was the years of the Cuban crisis, 64. So Paul Barron exposed on distributed communication that is online. Thank Andre for the reminder. There are mainly three possible models for information megastructure. They are centralized, is what the U.S. government functioned on that time, that you drop a bomb in the center and all the country is dismantled. There is this decentralized, there is how nowadays internet works in general sense, and there's the extremely distributed with no center, with no subcenter. So every node is a center by itself. So information always finds its way as life. Okay? So comes up, departing from the concept, we arrive to the research. From available cataloging rules, especially by starting with the translation in 2000 by Andre of RISM Spain, published in 96, mainly derived, as they express, from Picado software field definition, used in many music fund projects in Brazil, as I already said, through related formats and developments, such as the National Library in France using Unimark, the Mark 21 by the Library of Congress and adopted by YAML, and Callisto developments. Two Brazilian requirements, standards established by Brazilian National Library about dates, authority, thesaurus, structure, etc., and National Archive Council standards established by the Brazilian adaptation of the ISAG standards and the, how you translate Librate, is a Brazilian Dictionary of Archival Terms that includes music documents typologies and the famous and glorious resolution number 41 that I part of it. And this is special because this resolution from the National Council of Archive oblige every public or private related institution to treat audiovisual, sound, iconographic, and musical documents as normal documents. Before that resolution, Brazil doesn't oblige itself to treat this special document as document because they're going to say, they're cultural documents, so they put it all together, separated from the the natural and organic process of archival document cycle of life. Sounds good. And they treat it as, well, it's a miscellaneous of documents, doesn't matter at all. So they had it there and nobody knows what it is in there. But nowadays, this resolution tends to solve this major problem. So, in general, a music fund arrangement, thanks Andrea again, we, as a group, we propose to articulate when music is already in a fund, not in a holding, but in a music fund. How do you say that? Archive. But not archive as an institution, but archive as a fund. No, it's not a collection. No. Please don't begin with that because we have a fight. A collection is from libraries. A fund is from archives. So, no, but tata in Italy. Okay, if you want me to speak about this, we take your clock. 12 minutes, thank you. That's all, folks. Okay, but we articulate to use the description of RISM Brazil in the documentary unit levels. So we can articulate both rules without conflict. So on locating and preserving endangered private music holdings through a guide, because what we have nowadays identified in Brazil, not even catalog, but identified as music collection and funds in Brazil are only a tiny part of what we consider our whole music documental heritage. On the ergonomics in written music sources cataloging never begins with normalized data input, as we all know. Normalizing data is always applied later as a process of cataloging. On flow control of data input through RISM Brazil fields, and I show some of the flow charts that we studied and devised, studying the RISM Spain rules from '96. So just an example, quick example, because if you have a manuscript, you don't use the publication fields, and if it in any case you don't use all the fields, so you need to know how the fields flows for the input of data, For example, this is the flow chart for the incipit. Incipit has 3 variables, but the major one of it, the first one, is conditioned by what you input in RISM field 90. That is the number of works. Then you have 2 other embedded variables. Thank you. That is what we call Y and Z. That is how many sections of that, how many movements of that, or section of the work you will consider, and how many instruments will you input of voices of that section. So when that flow ends, when these variables, where is it? Here, just when you came to this, RISM 90 is 1, so okay, you can go, yes, another instrument of the same, and it returns. So all these the summarized or instrumental how do you say that? Desglosado. Repertoire desglosado de instrumentos. How do you translate it? It's an instrumental desglosado. But no, all this separado. Yeah, all the instrument you input in separated fields, they are summarized in 160, 180, and 100, and all 3 fields makes in the record for the user the final instrument. It's not repertoire. It's distribution. Thank you. So it can be not a manual process, but a semi-automatical one. Okay, it's just a code of the. You don't need to input any field or many fields. Many fields in RISM Brazil are automatically fulfilled by the process of the information input. So this is just an example. So comes the development. Taking into account Brazilian policies, we decided to make it open source, free software, PHP, MySQL, blah, 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 open access, open archiving protocol compliant, Verovio library for musical input. Thank you, RISM and RISM Switzerland. And this is the general scheme of the relation of a structure of tables, and it used also, because of the size of a country, geographical background structure to allow mapping, catalogs, and holdings. 5 levels of users, from visitor to administrator, with specific capabilities. That is shown here. You know, how many time remains? 30 seconds. Okay. Minimum data fields to complete. We have 2 options. You can catalog with minimum data fields or with a complete form input options. Data fields input flow control defined by music documental typology or origin of information. When you start to catalog, there are forms with preliminary questions that will decide which fields you will need or not. For example, if you can have 3 points of cataloging beginning. Read the musical source from the holding. You are in contact with the document. Inventory catalog. You have the list of works from an archive or a published catalog or other. Who knows? So this is the options. What will do each option for the first option, for the second and the third option. And the third option, we simply open a text field to say, okay, tell us what's your source, and we get in touch with you. All fields have helps and hints to allow better data input. Evaluation validation of input quality is made by higher level users that will help all the pedagogical bias of the tool. So we accept, in general terms, we accept users that I finally call from Zé Mané to Dr. José Manuel, who knows Portuguese is everyone can use the cataloging database to catalog his own music collection or archive, public or private, and it's full conversion into RISM. So just to end my presentation, let me show, this is the database as you get into by login. We have all the control terms, authorities, archives, dates and periods, forms and genres, institutions, voices and instrument that everyone will open, such as this, okay, terms and expression, etc. As an administrator, we have control of many users and have this, the administration has this maintain tool to do backup, to export, whatever. This part is under construction yet, but it's okay. It will be next week. So it's an upload issue only from the programming computer of the programmer Pedro Ivo. Thanks, Pedro. Because it's a long-term development with him, and I'll show you. For example, every user level has this capabilities expressed clearly. What he can do, what he can do, or she can do, and finally we have the record. And here's the button. When you click on it, it will open, convert it into RISM. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for your attention. Please get in touch with us. We don't yet have, well, we will have a RISM database email, but we need to decide which will the RISM Brazil email to get in touch. By the way, in the meanwhile, you can use each of our 3 personal emails. So thank you. 15 minutes, Dinko? 21? Oh. Sorry. Another issue, no, just a comment out of the record. No, because we tried this. We tried to organize a specialization syllabus for archivists and librarians. We are on the way to reorganize it because it was presential. No, it was a presential course and it has no way to cover, because archivists won't have the money to get over their jobs and the time to. So we are organizing, restructuring it to be an online, distant course. No curse, but course. Okay, thank you so much.